Welcome to Meet the Meats. We're going to be teaching you in this third and final installment of Fresh Max for Fresh Food Therapy how to prepare carne asada, pollo asado, a little bit of carnitas, and a little bit of pollo adobada so that you can prepare an incredible meal for you and your friends. Are you ready? Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna put together a very quick carnitas broth, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it into the oven and let it absorb all the moisture and then parboil to the point where it's just as tender as possible. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're going to take a little bit of onion. So we're going to cut the bottom off, cut the top off, prep, peel off the layers we're not going to use. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just put a little bit of onion into the mixture. Slice it thin because we're looking for flavor, not necessarily texture. It's all right if they melt into the recipe. So about 1/4 of an onion is perfect. Then what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of soy sauce. About, I would say, 1/3 of a cup. We're going to add a little bit of vinegar, red wine vinegar, about the same amount as the soy sauce. We're going to rough chop some garlic and put it in, maybe about 4 cloves or 5 cloves. We're going to add the juice of 2 oranges. So we're going to roll them first to get them to be prepared to juice up. And then we're going to add a little bit of black pepper, about maybe 3 teaspoons, a little bit of oregano, about 1 teaspoon, about 2 teaspoons of cumin, a little bit of garlic salt or garlic powder, about a teaspoon of onion powder, 3 bay leaves, and then we're going to finish up with some pineapple juice and a little bit of lime. Once it's mixed together, and what we're going to do is we're going to take pork. In this case, we have pork shoulder, but I also have some pork chops. You can use shoulder, you can use whatever pork, as long as there's a little bit of fat to it. And we're going to put the mixture over the top of the pork, and then we're going to put it into the oven at 350. And we're going to wait for the pork to cook all the way through and to actually absorb the moisture of and the flavor of the sauce until almost all of the moisture is absorbed. And then once that's done, we'll flash fry it to get it crispy. So we used pork shoulder for the majority of it, but I had some extra pork chops at home and I just wanted to see if this would work. So what I'm doing is I'm just trimming off the belly of the meat. I'm keeping the bone because I want the flavor from the marrow to go into the carnitas. And we're just cubing up the meat into pieces that are about the same size as the pork shoulder. You do want to keep the fat because that will actually increase the flavor, sink into the meat, and create a more flavored and texturally smooth carnitas. Now that it's in the dish, ready to go, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our mixture and we're putting it over the top of the pork to make sure that it's evenly coated. Once it's evenly coated, make sure that the bay leaves are covered with fluid. And we're gonna add just a little bit of water over the top to dilute the marinade. And we're ready to put it into the oven. Okay, so we're gonna make now pollo asado from scratch. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take about I would say a tablespoon worth of achiote paste. This is very, very powerful and you wanna be very careful with it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut it into smaller pieces so that it blends up evenly. This has a great deal of flavor, but it can overpower the dish if you use too much. So just be very, very careful. And that's all we're gonna use for this entire dish. We're gonna take about 2 tablespoons worth of garlic and we're gonna mince it. We want it to be fine because we're gonna go for flavor. We don't need to fine the pieces later and toss them out. They'll actually melt into the dish. But the finer you mince it, the better the results will be. You want them about the size of half of a piece of rice. So a very, very fine mince. One more time through and we should be right where we need to be with the size. We're gonna add about a half a cup of extra virgin olive oil. We're gonna add about 2 jalapenos worth. Or not. We're gonna take the rest of this onion, so about, I would say at this point, 3/4 of a yellow onion. Slice it so that the pieces are a little bit bigger. We're gonna take the juice of 2 oranges. We're gonna roll them a little bit to get them ready for juicing. We're gonna do the same for the limes. We're gonna just roll them to get them ready to juice. If you find that the lime is a little dry and you're not getting as much juice out of it as you want, don't work too hard, just grab another lime. We're gonna add the seasonings. We're gonna put a little bit of onion powder, about a teaspoon. We're gonna put garlic powder, about a teaspoon. And we're gonna put cumin. We're gonna put about a teaspoon and a half. And then we're gonna take a little bit of black pepper. About a teaspoon and a half as well. Now what we want to do is we want to make sure that the achiote powder or paste is blended evenly and that it isn't in big chunks, little tiny pieces, that it's blended to a smooth sauce. If you are inspecting and you see that the achiote paste isn't blended in all the way, just mash them in because you want the flavor to sink in all the way. So what we're going to do now is, now that the marinade is set, we're going to cut up the chicken into smaller pieces so that it marinates faster. What I'm going to suggest is that if you cut it into pieces that are approximately 1/4 of an inch square, you'll get the desired effect and the marination will take half as long to really sink in. Okay, so now we're very, very close to the end and we're just cutting up the last few pieces. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure that the meat is comfortably coated with the marinade. Because the pieces are smaller, it won't take nearly as long for this to be fully marinated. What you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna put it in the refrigerator and cover it. And in 2 to 3 hours, it should be perfectly blended and ready to be grilled. Here we are in the last bit of Meet the Meats, and we have all of the meats cooked off and prepped, ready to go. 2 we bought from La Tiendita because the cost and the flavor, well, the cost was higher to make it than to buy it, and their flavors are fantastic. We bought their Carne Asada and we bought their Pollo Adobado, but we made from scratch the Carnitas and the Pollo Asado. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna just finish it real quick, chop it up and put it onto the tacos so that you can see. We've got first the carnita, the carne asada. And all you have to do when you're grilling carne asada is get it to the point where it's cooked all the way through and has some marks. Once it's to that point, it should be ready to just cut up into strips with the grain and put onto a taco. The pollo asado, you want to make sure it's cooked all the way through. But once it's cooked all the way through, immediately let it set for a minute to let the moisture go back into the meat. And then what we're going to do is we're going to immediately put it on tacos. And the smell is just fantastic. We have the pollo adobada, which is like the Mexican version of chicken adobo. The color is beautiful and rich. The flavors go all the way through. And once the chicken is cooked all the way through, you can literally just mince it and put it onto the taco. And then the last is my own carnitas. Now carnitas have already been cooked all the way through, and all we're doing literally is shredding it up to let it get a little crispy. And once it gets crispy, it's ready to place onto the taco shells. Now, when you're throwing this party, it's perfectly acceptable to grill off some of the meat so that it's just about done, and then warm it up and finish it on the grill as the guests request it. That ensures that the meat is fresh, it's crispy, and it looks like it just got done for them at the time, which creates just a feeling of hospitality, fun, and kind of involvement. Now that we have done all the meats, we're going to set the table and put all the episodes 1, 2, and 3 together so that you can see what kind of a feast you've prepared for your guests. So we have forgotten one thing. Well, we really haven't forgot it per se. We need beverages for our party. And although it's very easy to pick up Dos Equis or Coronas, and it's very easy to grab some tequila and some mix, there are going to be people that come to your party that are not going to want to drink. And having ice water for fresh Mexican food is always a bad idea. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take these 2 magical potions and turn them into agua fresca. We have horchata and we have jamaica. The horchata is like a rice pudding and cinnamon flavored beverage, and the jamaica is actually a hibiscus flower punch that's most likely related to like a fruit punch flavor. But each of these is about $2.89, and it makes a gallon of beverage, which is a perfect amount for a party. That should get at least 16 people per gallon. Each of these makes about a gallon. So all we have to do is mix it in accordance to how sweet it needs to be, and then add in the right amount of water and mix. This is the equivalent of one of those syrups that you had when you were a kid. You know, when you went to summer camp and you had green or red, except this is like 1,000,000 times better. Once they're evenly mixed, you can put them in the fridge, put them on ice, serve them up to your guests, and they will remember the party that you invited them to. The guests can start arriving because you've got it all together. Now, it did take about 2.5 to 3 hours of prep to do all of this, but you just literally did food for about 25 people for about $100. The goal was 25 people, $100. We actually went a little bit over. We actually came in at $112.73, but a lot of it is stuff that can be used again later, or that wasn't a product that was completely used. So we did kind of hit our goal, but we did end up about $12, $13 over. Are you ready? We're literally gonna just pour a little bit of the horchata and the jamaica and then give you a full view of what we've got for your pleasure. It was a pleasure having you for 3 episodes back to back of Fresh Food Therapy. We hope you've enjoyed watching the Fresh Mexican Fiesta, and we hope that you can use some of these recipes to wow your friends and to really impress your family. And we'll see you again on Fresh Food Therapy.